If Bitcoin is gold, then this coin is silver, and it's on sale. What's up, my Milk Money millionaires? I'm Joshua, and this is Milk Money, where we learn how to make our money, make more money, so that we can all become middle-class millionaires. So I just want to throw out a trade alert for y'all. Today I am considering buying Litecoin. It is one of the most popular altcoins. We make another video all about altcoins coming up, but because as I was looking at this chart yesterday, I thought we might be hitting a good sale price, and so I wanted to quickly send out my analysis for you. So first off, always remember, I'm not a professional financial advisor, just a jackwagon on YouTube. I'm just trying to educate and maybe give you some ideas, and then you need to do your own research and make sure that they're a good fit for you and your risk tolerance and your personal financial situation, and you also want to do some DD to make sure I'm not totally wrong. All right, so what is Litecoin? After Bitcoin was created, the developers of Litecoin wanted to make a faster, sleeker alternative to Bitcoin. And they said themselves that if Bitcoin could be the gold, they wanted to be the silver. One of the problems with Bitcoin is that it is so big and slow. Compared to other coins, it takes a lot of computing power, a lot of processing power. In some ways, some might consider that part of its strength because it keeps its currency scarce. But Litecoin thought that if they could be faster, they could be better. They prioritized speed in developing their platform. Bitcoin can take up to 9 minutes to validate a transaction, where Litecoin could do that same transaction in 2 minutes. So the developers are hoping that if you're a retailer and you actually want to start accepting cryptocurrency, that you would be better served by taking something like Litecoin, because then you can validate that your transaction was accurate much faster. So a customer could be sitting there, they swipe the Litecoin, you could be talking to them, putting the stuff in the bag, and within 2 minutes you'd be able to know if it was an authentic transaction. If you had to wait 10 minutes, that's going to slow you down. Litecoin is also hoping to have much better liquidity. Part of the problem with Bitcoin is that a lot of people are buying it and storing it and holding it up, and there are so few coins that it's really going to be hard, unless we make it infinitely divisible and make them super tiny chunks of Bitcoin. It's going to be really hard for Bitcoin to really be actively used on a day-to-day transactional basis, and Litecoin is hoping that by being faster and having more coins, that it can be much more likely to be used by the average person for day-to-day transactions. One example of that liquidity is that Bitcoin is going to be maxed out at 21 million coins. It's built into the system that you can no longer make more coins once you hit 20 million. Litecoin was designed to go up to 84 million coins. So that provides 4 times as many coins, much easier to let everybody have some and use them transactionally. You might even consider that a con though. If you're considering the long-term price, having more coins would mean that your coin price would be lower. Also, the developers claim that the script that they created was meant to be a much easier algorithm for hardware to handle, so you do not need the same type of CPU and GPU that you would need to mine Bitcoin as you would for Litecoin, which mean that mining could be much more accessible and be much less costly, so a lot more people would have access to actually becoming miners with Litecoin. Bitcoin is number 1 in market cap, while Litecoin is coming in at number 7. So it's the 7th biggest coin by market cap. It has a market cap of 9.1 billion, where Bitcoin is going to have 600 billion market cap. So it's a much smaller coin, which also might be part of its upside. If Litecoin becomes adopted in mainstream, it has a much higher ceiling, where Bitcoin has already grown to a huge market cap. Why am I buying Litecoin, and do I think it's a good long-term investment? If you think the crypto space is a good long-term investment in general, then Litecoin could be a good consideration. Now, when we have an upcoming new technology, there's kind of 2 things that can happen. One, you have a leader, and the leader can have excise gains against everybody else. And so sometimes it makes sense just to invest in the leader. And that's called the first mover advantage, where the first one into the space gets big first, and just because it's there first, if it does a good job, it can be the market leader. That's kind of where Bitcoin is. Litecoin doesn't have that first mover advantage. Sometimes the first mover advantage ends up being a disadvantage when the second mover comes in, watches what the first one does, improves on it, becomes a better version of the first one, and it's not weighed down by all the problems and debt and everything else. Well, in the terms of a company, we'd be talking about debt and everything else. And it's able to catch up faster. And so because Litecoin is smaller, if it does get adopted, and because it does have some advantages over Bitcoin with speed and ease of use, you can make much bigger gains if Litecoin works. However, it does have the disadvantage. Maybe everybody will just say, we don't need Litecoin, we already have Bitcoin, what's the point? And that's part of the risk. And so I'm not sure if I want to hold it as a long-term hold yet. I think I'm going to have a small position as a long-term hold just in case. I'm developing a small portfolio of a variety of coins that I'm just going to buy and hold. And then there's other ones that I'm buying on top of that I'm going to hold throughout this bull rally. So if this current dip that we just have turns out to be just a dip, and we re-enter a new bull market for the rest of the year of coins, it'd be a chance to make some profits, and then I will sell the majority of my coins, like Litecoin, my secondary coins, to secure some profits while holding a very small portion of coins as a long-term hold, just in case it becomes a long-term winner. I haven't done enough research to determine if I really truly believe in Litecoin forever, but I do believe in the short term it's got enough support in price action that it could be a big winner for the next year. Other advantages: if it came out that a bank started loading up on Litecoin just like Bitcoin, if new technologies were developed, if there's any positive news for Litecoin, it could be a major catalyst to help it actually catch up to Bitcoin to a certain extent, and you're going to create a greater percentage of return than with Bitcoin because you're starting at such a smaller base. So keep your ear out for any news of any large adoptions to Litecoin, any practical uses. If you start seeing that you could buy stuff on Litecoin on your phone, that's going to be a pretty bullish sign. But again, short term, I'm hoping to make some profit as Bitcoin starts to rally. Right now, we had a big major correction with Bitcoin, and Litecoin followed along. So Litecoin is cheap. So while I bought some gold, I'm going to buy some silver as well. So I'm going to pull up a chart and kind of do a quick breakdown to try to figure out if right now is a good entry point. I do think we are very close to a good entry point, and depending on how you look at the chart, you might consider now a good entry point. If you are a very long-term investor anyway, and you believe in Litecoin for the future, now is definitely a good entry point. You don't need to fine-tune the last 10%. It is coming way down from its all-time highs, and if you think it'll be higher in the future, it's a great entry. But anyway, first off, as you can see, historically, ever since Litecoin has come out, it has closely followed the same trend as Bitcoin and having short periods of outperformance. So it pretty much follows the trend of Bitcoin. As Bitcoin goes down, Litecoin goes down. As Bitcoin goes up, Litecoin goes up. But the percentage gains are much bigger, right? Because it's starting at a smaller base. Here we're going from $3 in 2017. This is the last bull market run of the crypto space. It went from $3 all the way up to $300 before peaking, where Bitcoin went from 1,000 to 14,000. So you had a 14x gain with Bitcoin and a 100x gain on Litecoin. So you're going to have a greater percentage gain. But also on the downside, you're going to get a greater percentage losses. So the risk up and down is always going to be greater. So keep that in mind. It's kind of a way to leverage your investment in Bitcoin since they do follow each other, but you want to get a slightly higher return. You can take 20% of your Bitcoin investment and put it in Litecoin instead. All right, so let's look at the chart real quick. All right, so earlier in the month, as you can see, Litecoin was at a price of around 185 for a high, and it's come all the way down to 123 as of this recent correction. So yesterday, we saw a big sell-off with Bitcoin and cryptos, and this seemed to be the low point, and it's rebounded a little bit since then. So if you were to buy it right now at 138, you're still buying it well off the 52-week high here. So you could consider this a good entry price if you're long term. Now on the short term, we want to look a little bit closer to the trend. And as I zoom in, there's a trend line with 3 peaks here of a downward correction. Now, if it were to bounce off this line and go down, you would say this trend would continue. We have 2 lines of support from previous dips, one at 122.7 and one at 130. It seemed to have hit the 122 here and bounced off it very violently. You see a big pick up in value. It quickly turned around and broke through this line of support as well, 130. So this was a great price to enter. This is what alerted me when it hit this price, and then I've been watching it ever since. So that would have been a good point to buy it. But I also wanted to see if it broke out of this downward channel because it could have bounced off and came back down again and continued. So sometimes if you want to bottom fish and get the absolute lowest price, you could do that, but you're adding risk. So sometimes you want to make sure that the trend actually changes so that you don't catch a falling knife. You'll end up buying it a little bit higher, but with a higher margin of safety. So we have these 3 peaks lining up for a downward trend line, and today Litecoin broke through very strongly with a strong long green candle. So whenever you have a breakout and it's got lots of support behind it, that's very bullish. And now it's kind of forming a consolidation pattern after that big move. And right now it's kind of a key line for the long-term trend. Since it had a big move to the upside, it could decide to pull back and retest this trend line. A lot of times when you have breakouts, if it's super bullish, sometimes it never retests and it just goes nuts. Sometimes it'll pull back and retest that line that it broke out of before it finally makes it official. As people, and again, with technical analysis, none of these things are 100%. None of these things are guarantees. These are just patterns that we can see that sometimes work and hopefully increase our odds a little bit. So some of these patterns might work 60% of the time, where a coin flip would be 50-50. So even 60% is a tiny bit of a boost. You're still not guaranteed. So just because you see a pattern doesn't mean it's automatic. But even though it hasn't come back to retest, this line of support here at 138 could be the retesting. So it broke through that support and resistance as well from the previous lows and these peaks here. And if it stays at this line, this could be all the pullback and all the retest that Litecoin needs. So I would watch it very closely if you're trying to get the best price and see if it stays along this line and turns around again. That would be very bullish for a new uptrend. So in the short term, we do have one lower low. Here was the max low here, a short-term low, and another low is forming. So if this new higher low holds and we turn to the upside, that would be bullish. As we look at the long-term moving average, it is rounding around, which is a bullish sign. It's not always a guarantee. It could just be a rest. Yesterday we did hit oversold on the RSI, so this could just be an oversold bounce, or it could be a resumption of an uptrend. So there's a lot going on, a lot to consider. Whether you think this is the perfect price to jump in, a lot of it's going to determine your horizon. For me, I bought a little bit when I saw it bounce off of this bottom, just to kind of make sure I got in early, just because I saw how much of a discount it was to its previous high. So anyway, if this support breaks down, it could come all the way back to the trend line and maybe somewhere around 130 and retest this bottom, or retest this line. Maybe it would be around 131. And so if you really want to try to get the best price, you might want to wait till it's 131, but it might never get there. But if it does break down from here and it hits 131 and then starts to turn to the upside, that would be extremely bullish. It would have broke out, retested, and broke out again. You could feel very strong. If it bounces from here, this could also be a breakout of this support, and then this could also end up being a short-term cup and handle. Long cup and handles are usually better than short, small ones, but just looking at the hourly chart, it could be a mini cup and handle pattern. So we could take off from here. So when we're not sure, I'll look at a 5-minute chart to get a few more clues on the short term, like is it trending down or up from this support line. And as we can see, it pulled back a little and it hit its long-term moving average and is holding that line pretty well. So that's a sign that maybe this level might hold. We would definitely, if this breaks down, then you might think that a retest is coming. The shorter term moving averages are still trending down. So for us to really feel great, I would say if it starts to turn back to where this longer term moving average breaks up towards the shorter term moving averages and we start getting back up to 139, 140, then we might be bullish again. On a long term perspective, I do think we have a good price. If you do believe that Bitcoin is going to be bullish the rest of the year, then this is a good price for Litecoin. You could fine tune it and maybe get it 10% lower, 10% higher. But if these levels hold up, I think it could be a good time to buy. I might put a small position in right now just in case this level holds. I don't end up having to buy it at 140, but I'm not going to put my whole position in until we have a new uptrend. So we have a low here, a low, higher low here, higher low here, because that's 3 lows. One more would feel pretty darn safe. And then also for the bear case on Litecoin, some of the stuff that I mentioned before, we might be catching a falling knife because it's sort of in a downtrend. We're hoping that downtrend is reversing right now. We've got some clues that it is. So if you want to be more aggressive, you can buy it now, or you can wait for further confirmation. Because if you are right, it's got a lot of room to the upside. Since its previous high was 180, we had an intermediate high at 165, and then the high before that was 185. And then its all-time high was like 360-ish, something around there, on the last bull market run. So it's still not caught up to its old all-time highs, where Bitcoin and Ethereum have all reached their all-time highs. So there might be a lot more room to the upside. A couple more things to consider for our bear case. I always like to have a bear case, some considerations for why I could be wrong. One is that we might be in a falling knife. 2, Bitcoin is the market leader, and it could just totally leave Litecoin in the dust as people say, you know what, we don't need the small little stepbrother. We got Bitcoin. There could be some technological risk that something about their platform is not really that great, and then people don't actually want to adopt it. The smaller network effect is kind of critical, because if that network effect doesn't grow from where it is now, then it will never get the kind of usage it needs to really make big gains. And then also on the whole cryptocurrency space, I might have to make a video about this in general, about some of the bear case for cryptocurrency in general, and that is with Janet Yellen coming out and saying that she wants to curtail the use of cryptocurrency. It does give some signals that this administration is going to be anti-crypto, and maybe some regulations could come in place to make it harder for people to get to and from their crypto, and that would be very bearish for the whole market, including Litecoin. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. If you think I got my technicals wrong and you got a better price, awesome. If you're picking some up, let me know. Appreciate you spending some time with me. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get more buy alerts and analysis on cryptocurrency and other traditional financial assets as well. Again, I'm Joshua from Milk Money. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.